Where I started, I'm from inner city Philly. Thank you. Clearly we left, but it's all right. The music business is a marathon. I always say this to people. I had no money. I lived in my car. Sounds so romantic now when I tell my wife about it, but it sucked. And the one thing that I had a realization, a story. I was living in San Francisco. I had driven my car after living in it across to the West Coast, and I rented a walk-in closet, which was all I could afford in a house of about 8 students in Bernal Heights, it was hood. It was real. I could have slept outside and been safer than where I was. And the necessity breeds innovation it's like surviving. And they told me I had to have this $180 or I would be out. And I didn't know what to do. And I went to Fisherman's Wharf, and I thought I'm just going to do what I always done, which I'm play songs I wrote for money, and I'll earn change. And I don't know if you know that area, but it's like people get married and they go on their honeymoon and they walk hand in hand, and it's romantic. I thought it's a sure thing. And the first day I earned $17 playing like 9 hours, and I had a real panic. And I slept outside on the bench, and the next morning I got up, and there was around 9 when people started filtering through. There was a really nice couple that sat and listened to me play. I was like playing, I don't know, American Pie or something. And then I would throw in a song I wrote, in between the songs of other people. And this one couple was really nice, and they said, well, they were really nice. They gave me like $2. And I said, inflation since then, but so they were telling me, and I said, well, what are you here? And they said, we just got married. And I said, how did you meet? And they told me the story, because there was nobody around, and I was just talking. And I had this idea in my head, and I said, what if I write a song about what you just told me in 5 minutes or less for $5? And they looked at me, and they were like, okay, it's like, what a crazy thing, a song written about our love affair. So I wrote down all the things that they told me, and 5 minutes later I sat back and I played my guitar and sang my heart out, this song with all little catchphrases they said about each other, and they gave me $10. So I was like, so then the next couple came by, and I was like, so tell me, how did you guys meet? That's how necessity breeds innovation. And I made $378 in a day, and the thing is that I did it, I loved it, and I thought, you know what? There is a way. It's not just the way you read about. Sometimes it's the way you're just going to have to invent and figure it out, but you can't do it by yourself. And the takeaway from that, for me, to talk to all of you at any stages, everybody in this room is my colleague. I'm not above you, I'm not below you. Maybe I have different experience, more experience, but we're all, if you're into music and you're doing it, we can all sit down, most of us, I assume, in this room, play a 1-4-5 blues chord progression and figure something out together. But it's a community experience, music. I sit in front of a computer editing, and a lot of people here I know do that, but it is a community thing. It's a church thing. It's a jam band thing. It's a collaboration thing. And I worked with and grew up with a lot of kids that are still into music, and they're still my partners. I still work with them. I still know them. And even the executives that you meet that say, your stuff's no good, they're your partners. You put your stuff up on YouTube and someone watches it, they're your partners. It's like you cannot clap with one hand. So you have to remember that sometimes the feedback you get from your partners is good, and sometimes not so much. You got to network. And you got to network in the least creepy way possible. The moment I add you as a friend on Facebook, 10 seconds later you send me a 1,700-word diatribe on, it's like, but I appreciate it, and I try. Me personally, I do my best to try to respond. to everybody, but I realize I can't. But there is a way, and we know the way. Sometimes you're just excited, you can't help yourself, and I've been there. But try to manage your prowess as someone who's a networker, and don't think that everything is up to one person. Don't give one person that kind of power. Let me tell you something. I say to the people that work for me, I'm like, they say, well, I emailed them. I was like, so? This is a human business with human beings. Our product lives, breathes, talks, makes you feel. We're wizards and magicians. We walk into a room together. We create music out of thin air. Nobody can see it. You can't see it, right? We dress it up, and then we sell air. I mean, it's awesome, funky air, but depending on the session, it's funkier than others. But, it's like we have to interact. So don't just email somebody and say, okay, I didn't hear back from them. It's just, call once. Just lob in a call. See how it goes. Travel. You got to go get the opportunity. If someone's like, well, if you can afford it, you do the best you can, but you got to go after it. You got to go to those opportunities. And you have to use social networking and SESAC and go to gigs and, bring your humility and just reach out to people. And you don't have to say anything other than, I love what you do, and can we do something together? I don't like lateness. It's kind of a drag. My wife would disagree with me and say I do like lateness sometimes. But and this is probably the most key thing that I say to my writers and to myself, which is we're also hungry for the opportunity. The real trick is elevate other people and you will elevate yourself. Like, I want to sit here, and if I could go for hours telling you how amazing all of my writers and friends are. Some I publish, some I don't. Some I've worked with, some I don't. Artists I love. And you should write. I'll be like, hey, you should really write with Rob Giles. He's an amazing songwriter. He's incredible. He's into rescues. He's a brilliant human being. He's wonderful, soulful, interesting guy. You got to hear this song. And meanwhile, the meeting's for me. And the A&R person is looking at me like, wow, this guy's come in and he's talking about this other writer and how great this other writer is. And the message that person gets is twofold. One, if they're smart, they're making note of the writer that I mentioned, who, by the way, will always call me in to collaborate because say, thanks, Billy, for talking about me. But more than that, they're saying, this guy is confident enough that he doesn't need to make it the me show, and he can talk about somebody else. So maybe that's like, he's kind of maybe a little more, I got to talk to this guy. Because everybody in the music business is just like, and enough about me. You talk about me, and I'll come back to me. It's like, I always say this, it's like embrace the hate. I mean, it's a reality. If you get successful in some way, there's going to be haters. It happens. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. If you're an artist and you put something up on YouTube and you have 100 views and somebody says something really awful, they will say awful things. And cyberbullying is grotesque, and it makes it pretty difficult for people. But if you can't withstand that on your YouTube page where you can disconnect it and download it and unload it, how are you going to do when you get out in the real business with a bunch of critics that are going to tear you down? So the things I wish that they told me when I started was, I was ambitious, so I wanted to go get it. To take action if I want to do something, I'm doing it. I'm not going to sit and talk. People, you guys talking about doing stuff, just do it. Because I promise you, other people, they're doing it. So if you can do that, be focused and efficient about being busy. Everybody's, I'm so busy. I'm busy. Like, look at your busy list and be like, how much of this shit do I really need to do? Honestly. I just, and not because it's not good, but that's by being able to focus your to-do list, you're going to get more efficient, and you're going to start to be selective about your time. And remember, it's music, the most sacred thing, and business, the least personal sacred thing, getting married. So I put in, embrace your inner Spock. You gotta just, something is just like, you gotta just depersonalize. You have to know it's just, don't make it about you sometimes when it hurts, when it's hard. I have a view that most people exist and they kind of think in this way. And this is really particular to me, music business success, but I'd say in general it has worked for me. And this A plus B equals a question mark. And this is how most people exist. A, that's where I am now, plus B, whatever my next move, equals question mark. Hopefully it's going to be something better than A, right? And that's what you do. It's like, well, I'm here. And then you start thinking, okay, as soon as I get a bigger apartment, I'm going to be happy. As soon as I get my first cut, I'll be happy. As soon as I sign a publishing deal, I'll be happy. So I meet the right person, partner, I'm happy. Have my first kid, I'm happy. And the thing is that every time you get to there is suddenly replaced by another there. So you are on a treadmill that you have created yourself, and most people do. It's like, okay, I got to get from here to here, and there's like reality to that. But I think we get obsessed in this culture we're in with, and it's not just material-wise, but I'm talking music business. As soon as I get that meeting, as soon as I get that cut, as soon as I get that number one or my first $1,000 or whatever it is, or can quit my job, then I'll be happy. And then you get there and immediately you're like, what's my next there? And it's hard to sustain that. Now, this is my fulfillment version, which is A plus X equals predetermined outcome. My predetermined outcome today was that I was going to come and talk to you guys, speak from my heart, tell you the truth as I see it. Not everybody, it's just me. And you're going to walk out, whether you agree or disagree with me, feeling somebody was honest with me. They want me to win. I want you all to win, and win like rich, awesome life. And that's what I'm going to do when I leave here. That's my predetermined outcome. Then my responsibility is to figure out what X is, and that is always going to be a moving target for me. And that's work for me. So it's not about what monument, the next hit, the next whatever. It's about what the direction my life is going into. And I know this doesn't seem like, why are we talking about this right now? But it's because this is what has made me successful in music. It's because I didn't chart my life when I figured it out towards pleasing all of these people whose jobs come and go, companies bought and sold, marketplace changing, technology changing. I wasn't hitching my wagon onto the validation of that. I was instead thinking, I want to be healthy. I want to have love in my life. I want music to drive my life forward. I want to roll with the punches. And it gets lost because we're all like, I want to be P. Diddy. I want to be this thing. And the other risk here, by the way, is that if you're driven by money and you're just like, I want to get paid, then you may wind up getting the money. But by the time you get there, then you're not going to have all the other really cool stuff. You'll be like, look at me and my money by myself. And it's like, if that's what it's about for you, and that's your true north, then that's cool. It's just, I think, I would say this to you, have it all. So it's like, when you go into a writing session with somebody, you say, what's my predetermined outcome? I'm going to walk in, I'm going to come out, maybe it won't be a hit, but I'm going to mean it. I'm going to build a bridge with this person. I'm going to go into an A&R meeting, I'm going to walk out. Before you walk in, you're going to walk in going, when I leave, I'm going to let them know how I feel, I'm going to be respectful, I'm going to walk out with, they'll get a chance, please listen to my stuff. That's all you can do. My relationships, like, this is a perfect example. Like, you hear me talk about my wife. I've got a great family. But the way it works in my house is, it's like A is where I am plus X equals happy marriage. That's important to me. That means I predetermine the fact that no matter what, I'm going to have a really great marriage. We're going to go through a lot of stuff together. But I established that's the outcome I want, and then X is my ass. Then it's my responsibility to do whatever it takes as her partner, much to her chagrin, that I'm going to make it so that the outcome is always that we keep it together and we're happy. And I try to apply that to everything else I'm doing. And when I started doing that, things started working for me. So now I'm going to tell you some true business stories. Some of them are funny and quite heartbreaking. Okay, the first one is the story of Unheard Of. Okay, this is a nightmare for a songwriter. So I started to get some traction, and I wrote this song called Junkie for Your Love. I know it's not the greatest title, but I thought it was at the time. But the song at the time, this is in the late 90s, I was so sure this song was going to be huge. And I gave it to my publisher, and I sent it around to some A&R people too. And I got a call from an A&R guy at RCA who said, I love this Junkie song, and my artist, whatever, Boopsy Bopsy, whatever her name was, she really loves it, and we want to do it. And it was some new artist. And I went to my publisher, and my publisher was like, that song is a hit. I'm going to do that on this group. And Tommy Mottola was then the chairman of Sony. He's like, Tommy loves that song, and we're going to do it on this group. It's going to be huge. I'm not going to give it to some unknown singer, I never heard of and whatever. So, I was trying to get by. I was trying to, I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't know what to do. And I remember I went to the group that was cutting the song, ultimately at Sony, was called, and I'm not joking, I did not make this up, Unheard Of. And when the original artist who really wanted the song, this unknown female artist, sat down with me and after her showcase and was like, oh, I really want to do that song. I don't know, why didn't you give it to me? And I was like, Christina Aguilera, True story. And the song went nowhere. So that happens, by the way. Hurts a little bit still, but and then another thing that happened to me was I had written a song with a very well-known artist who I won't name, that I was very close with personally, a really good friend, knew me, knew my family, and we wrote a magnificent ballad together, and I recorded vocal for her in the studio, and it was a very emotional thing. It had a lot to do with a real trauma in her life at the time. This is an artist that sold over 10 million records, and it was like one of those deep, those deep intimate moments where you're creating something and you're just like, this is not about me. This ain't me. I'm not here. It's like someone else is in the room and we're just getting out of the way kind of experience. And her manager and the label was like, this is the greatest song. And I had been friends with these people for years. I said, Billy, can you send us the Pro Tools, and because we want to get it on into record. And so I'm a very trusting guy, so I sent it off. And next thing I know, a big producer who I worshiped took my Pro Tools, lifted it up, plopped it down into his Pro Tools, retracked the exact same bass, my exact same piano parts, kept the string part, kept the vocals, kept all the stuff, The artist is like my dear friend, and then put it out with no credit to me. And I was like, what? Anyway, and then I had to go and fight for it, which, by the way, right is right. Fight when it's right. Choose your battles, but when you know it's like, I'm going to go to the mattresses for it, you go. A year later, the same A&R guy calls me on the phone, lovely British guy. Billy, we'd like you to work on the greatest hits for whoever the artist is. And my wife was pregnant at the time. I was like, well, no. And he was like, I'm sorry, are you joking? And I was like, no. He's like, do you know how much money you could make a greatest hits for this artist? And I was like, and I said this, and by the way, your wife is pregnant. She's in the other room. You just get your own first place that you buy together. And I'm like, some things are just not about the money. And I hung up the phone. Then I freaked out. And the dates that he had given me to do was to come to L.A., and this is about 11 years ago. And I did freak out because I thought, it's so competitive out there. It's arrogant of me to think I'd say no, but it wasn't my values. I just couldn't go back. By me going back after they had taken from me in a dishonest way, then I was essentially giving them a pass to treat people that way, and I had to kind of pay it forward, which is a difficult thing when you need the money. And so I freaked out, and I decided I was going to go to L.A. that same week, and I'm going to make something else happen for my family. I was going to figure it out. And the day that I would have been in the studio with this one artist, I was instead introduced to Pink, who's the longest, most meaningful collaborator of my career. And had I taken that gig with that artist just for the money, just to please the pressure, I would have missed out on the most deep, meaningful copyrights that mean something to me, that say something to the world, and with an artist who today is, a family member in my life. But that was a very humbling experience. So when something happens and you feel like, how did this happen to me? Take the high road and believe that if you do the right thing, that it'll come back to you. It has worked for me, and I thank goodness that I said no for the right reasons, and I was rewarded for doing it. And I know it sounds hokey, but it works. The other thing I say is, I was going to tell a story about my old publisher, Sony ATV. They're good people. It wasn't a trashing story. It was just a story about most publishers and the way a lot of them really have wonderful intentions, and yet they sometimes get in their own way. And the one thing I would say about all major publishers in general is that, just like I said about SESAC, you got to find the people with passion. If you find one person with passion about you, then you're okay. But if it's all about, they can throw the greatest wedding reception on earth, but they don't know anything about marriage. They'll just, and you may kiss the songwriter, and they're like, okay, we're together, bye, and then they're on to the next. And it's not because they mean it, but it's because they have a limited bandwidth. And that's their mandate, 90% of them. But within those companies, you got to find those wonderful people that really are passionate about you. Just like the first believer, like my friend Scott, my old friend. And my point about in the absence of leadership, lead. Esme Denters is a great story for me because she's an artist from Oosterbeek, Holland, who just started singing into her webcam, and I was so enamored by her. In my Go Get It opportunities, I flew to Holland, signed her, and got her on Oprah and the cover of Billboard, and she, to this day, is one of the biggest YouTube stories. And the moment we entered into, and Justin Timberlake was my partner on the deal and did a lot of work towards it, but once we got into the major label thing, it's like we all forgot about how it started, which was the platform of the people. And she's still going after it, and she's still great, and I have great promise for her, but she didn't stop. And when you look at artists like Beyonce, 50 Cent, Lady Gaga, these are all, Katy Perry, they all got dropped by major labels. It's like people forget. So anyway, what I came to figure out is I wanted to start something that was philosophically interesting to me, and at BMG they supported me in doing it, and I started Green and Bloom, which is about basically developing songwriters. It's not for everybody, but the idea is that I want to take the experience I had, and instead of looking at it as like, music business tends to say, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, because they want to keep you in. But I feel like if you can teach a songwriter how to fish, they're going to eat for a lifetime, and I think will be loyal to you in the end more. And so I said, I'm going to try it, and these are the rules. Rule 1. It is what it is. You ask any of my writers, they'll tell you. We have bi-weekly conference calls, all the writers sharing with each other, collaborating with each other, supporting each other. And if anybody shows up and they're like, I invented air, it's like, oh, well, you'll have plenty of it now. So, and the thing is, it's like, we're all personalities, but you don't need to, I don't want to do that. I feel like I'm much more productive if I can be with people that I care about, and I can surround myself with people that I have an affinity with, have value affinity with, but also to teach the writers how to deal with that. When you earn $1, you don't really have $1 to spend. You got to pay your taxes, you have to plan, you have deductions where you live, where your equipment is, and so I have guest speakers. We had SESAC come out to our last retreat. I have financial advisors. I want them to learn everything I didn't learn, because I wish that a publisher had done it for me. And the risk is, if I do this, are we going to make any money? And the risk is, if you look at it and you say, okay, well, I'm going to, basically, the criteria is I'm either 1,000% in, I'm either 100% in, or I ain't doing it. I had a meeting yesterday. They pitched me a couple projects to produce. I'm lucky to be in the position, by the way, you guys, I don't take it for granted, to be able to make choices. But I was listening and I was like, I like this project, but I love this one. And the old me probably would have taken both, because I'm ambitious, I want to win, I can do anything. But what I realized is I did so many things in the past that diluted my bandwidth because I didn't want to turn stuff down, that in a way it sacrificed the quality of what I was doing, and I needed to change that. And I thought, if I can find this group of people and have them think like that, what will happen? And we've been doing it 9 months, and in 9 months I've signed 20 writers. We have 1,000 copyrights and growing, 50 cuts on records, and all with major artists. And you want to know something? We're outperforming the basic creative executive team at BMG, who's our partner, with just 3 people. And the writers who are contributing and hustling and working and supporting each other. And like, I'm telling you about it because I need to say it out loud so it feels more real to me. But it's incredible. And so what is it? It's a family environment. I want to treat people with respect. I don't want to just make it about the wedding reception. It's about long term. I want to put love in the work. I want high quality. I mean, look, Yeah, technology is tough. Of course it is. It's horrible and tough in some ways, and in other ways it's opportunity. But quality matters. 20 plus million Adele records is quality. It's not like all of a sudden it's like one record of quality. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is the only record of quality that's been made in the past. But there are people out there that will buy music of quality. It doesn't mean that we don't have to change, but we have to focus on high quality. And you know when your quality isn't high. Humility, really important. Hits, really important. Fun, incredibly important. But eat what you kill is the ultimate equalizer for me when I want to do a deal with a writer. Because I'm saying, look, let's do an admin deal. I'm going to tell you the terms, right? We're going to be wide open. Here's our administrative percentage, which gives you the maximum amount of ownership. That's all we take, unless we get you cuts on records. Unless we get your song in a movie that makes a lot of money. If we do that, then we'll increase our participation. That, as someone who's a songwriter, if someone had said that to me, I'll be like, yeah, I'll take that deal. Instead, what happens is you do a deal, you give them co-ownership, and then they just go, well, I got your contract right here. I'll see you next year. And I think if you can, right, incentives. If you can turn to someone and say, we're incentivized to work hard for you and reward us if we deliver. And if we don't reward us anymore. And that's the good news about technology. That's the good news about, I think, the fact, yeah, of course, there's a lot more, and it's hard. I'm not minimalizing it. But that, to me, is that's a healthy relationship. Not give me more if I do stuff for you, and if I don't. It's just not. So, things are going to happen in your life that are going to set you back. But if you have that predetermined outcome, that true north, that's what I looked at, true north, before it was a pop phrase, I guess, but that's how I looked at everything. You can still get there. And so I'm saying to you my predetermined outcome. And I wrote this list more than a decade ago. So I want to be a family person. I want to have children. I want music in my life. I want to grow and evolve constantly. I want to travel. I want to learn. I want to be surrounded by people who value me, who I value. All these things, this like Stuart Smalley list, which I like to call it. It's like, and then when things happen to me, I have to take in the fact that they are tailor-made experiences for me that I may not understand at the time, but like I have to take it in. And I got to listen to what's inside of me. And I will tell you openly, because I promised I would tell you the truth. And this is personal, and I know everybody's got their smartphones and whatever, but it stays here. I lost a wife to cancer very young. I have lost family members to cancer. I've had no money. I signed a bad contract. I lost a child. I was escorted by security officers out of a major label office building once. Good for you. I drank a lot when I went through some tough times. Fortunately, I didn't wind up going to rehab, and I had great family around me, got me out. I lost hope a lot. I have a beautiful family, and I have a son who's diagnosed with autism. There's a lot of people in this room that know a lot of people, because it's 1 in 88 kids. And it's and I looked at how I was losing, and then I looked at X, which is my responsibility, so that when I'm down, I know the direction that I already established. I told you where I'm going, right? I told you I'm going to have a family life. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to have abundance. I'm going to care about the people I work with. And all the stuff that like was really hard and they'll continue to be hard stuff on all of us. I didn't the compass is clear. You're down on the ground, a tornado hits you, you lose somebody that you love, you lose a job, you set back. As long as you can look down and the north is still pointing in the direction you can go to, then you can get there. But if you look down and it's A plus B equals question mark, then it's like, I'm here, I plan on getting to B, that didn't work out, and now where am I going to go? And so I want to say that this is now, and I'm saying this is about as, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, but this is like a little bullet point list of just the surface stuff outside of that. I do have a happy marriage. I do have 3 beautiful children. I do have financial security for my kids. I started my own company. I sold it. I joined the board of one of the biggest multinationals at the youngest age of anybody in the music business at 38, and I was president of EMI, and I was president of BMG, and I've been nominated for a Grammy. I've sold 100 million records. I've had top 10s around the world, SESAC Performance Awards, respect from the artists and the people I work with, and I get to do it with the people that I love and I have fun with. And even though the previous slide I showed you showed a lot of dark stuff, I could not have all this good stuff if I didn't know the direction I wanted my life to go in and didn't make it contingent upon being validated by a small group of people who change chairs all the time. My greatest accomplishment really is what happened with my family and my son, who was diagnosed with autism. It's not a SESAC theme for today, but it's a theme in my life. It's a very humbling experience when your son can't tell you what he's feeling, what's hurting him, and at the same time, you're a driven, ambitious guy who's managed to climb Mount Everest on roller skates. That is the music business. And then you look at your kid and you think, what am I going to do? And so I went to work. And I started doing everything I could to get any opportunity I could. And then I started thinking, if it was me in Philadelphia, where I grew up, was a single mom, worked 2 jobs, no benefits, I'd be probably in an institution if I had been diagnosed with autism at that age. And also think of how many, it's an 80% bankruptcy rate and an 80% plus divorce rate for families. It's 90%, you're right, it is 90%. And I didn't, and I just said, I got to do something. And at the time, I really believed in a senator from Chicago that nobody believed in, and reached out to this guy who I connected with and said, I'm going to call every music person I have to try and get autism on the agenda for the presidential race. And people said I was crazy. They said I was crazy because Obama was never going to be the president. And they said I was crazy because why are they going to talk to me? I'm not a hedge fund guy. I'm not a multi-billionaire. That's, who typically politicians go to. And by the way, I'm not anti-Republican either. It's just I happen to believe in this guy. And that it was his time. And, well, you know what? I will tell you, as an equal opportunity advocate for my son and for the autism community, I met Governor Romney too. But the biggest moment and the greatest hit for me, my ultimate predetermined outcome is, what can I do so that when I die, I know I will have done everything with integrity to help my kid and not sacrificed my family and everything else in the quest for achievement. This is a music lesson too for me. I'll do everything I can without sacrificing just like a healthy life. And this to me was the best moment of my life. And And it's funny because my son is out. This is kind of a funny thing, but my son is he's a beautiful kid, but for him to stand still is really hard. And we're in the Oval Office, which is it's like insane. You're like standing there, and it's like I'm waiting for like Charlie Sheen and Michael Douglas to come out. I don't know, you don't know if it's real. It's like all happening so fast, and I know, like say, you know, my wife and I, we know the president that we have over the years, and he is a really great guy who I believe in. But my son it's like all the sensory input was a lot for him, and after the president signed the Combating Autism Reauthorization Act into law, he handed the first pen to my son, who was very awkward, and you have to sort of schedule a kid with autism. And he said, you know, and for him to talk now is like a big deal. He said, you know, Daddy, I want shoulders, which he likes it when I pick him up on my shoulders because I'm tall. And I'm in the Oval Office. I'm like, I'm like, so I said to him, I said, Jasper, my son said, I said, Jasper, first president, then shoulders, then McDonald's. This is like, you know, I got to like schedule him out, say this is how it works. That was not enough for him. He's like, Daddy, I want shoulders. And I looked at the president, and I just said, I'm sorry. And I put my kid up on my shoulders in the Oval Office. And and I walked out, and you know, we didn't solve the autism epidemic, but as a dad, I felt like what I feel as a musician and what I feel as a person is that I did everything that I could to go as far as I could, so that whatever the outcome was, I wouldn't look back and say, I didn't try, I didn't push to the farthest limits of myself. I answered the call that came for me, and I realized it's not the Wizard of Oz. Nobody's going to hand you the magic powers. You have it all along. And that I had to define the success that I have based on me, and not other people. Not a record executive, not a teacher, not an administrator, not another parent whose kid is mean to my kid, not ignorance. And that's all I got. A lot of people in the music business, they got a lot more money than me. And I'm one of the lucky ones, and I've made a good living, and I have a great life. But they can have 10 cars, 4 houses, a lot of people coming and going, but nobody's richer than me. And and what I want to say to you, the most important thing is, define rich now. Make sure that how you define that predetermined outcome that you stick to, that it's deep, that it's not solely on the validation of materialism or executives. And some people say, well, that's easy for you to say, Billy, because you got all that. And that, by the way, and that's fair, except it didn't fall in my lap. And frankly, I can't believe that it did. But none of it would change who I am and what I have done in the progress of my day-to-day from when I started in Philly. None of it. The only thing I got going for me is that I defined ahead of time what I wanted my success to look like, so that when I got there, I would know and I would be able to appreciate my life. And I wish that for all of you, and I'm grateful to be able to say this to you. Thank you.